This is a continuation from our interview with Philippa Kaye, content creator, entrepreneur, storyteller, India travel expert, and author of Escape to India. We discussed the importance of sustainable tourism and being cognizant and respectful when visiting different destinations. Philippa shares with us what India has taught her personally and professionally over the last 25 years and what to expect when visiting this unique and colorful country.
She teaches us that the best way for anyone to have authentic travel experiences is to discover the true reason why you're going to a location and to be intentional with your itinerary by seeking out purpose-driven experience providers. Be sure to check the show notes to learn more about Philippa's company, Indian Experiences, and her work in conjunction with Teletour. We hope that you enjoy this conversation as much as we did. I've gotten to experience your work firsthand, obviously, through Teletour, and you've put some beautiful itineraries and really thoughtful, authentic experience. And you touched on it, but I know a lot of your work revolves around wildlife and naturalist types things. How could you really be sustainable if you were looking to come to India, have an authentic wildlife experience?
I was kind of thinking about this morning. I think, again, it's a case of slowing it down. Don't just go whizzing through parks and try to tick off, tick off, tick off. You know, we're going to this park for 2 nights and this park for 2 nights. That doesn't work. You know, you spend far too much time driving around and not spending time being present in the parks. I think the other thing is, you know, finding lodges that are run by people who are passionate wildlifers. You know, one thing that happens is India is, you know, somebody has a really good idea and then a lot of people copy that idea. So you'll have some people who, you know, 2 nights ago, I was staying at a camp that's run by the lady who set up the Wildlife Protection Society of India. You know, it's her parents who brought WWF into India, you know, the World Wildlife Fund into India. And you know that, you know, she's passionate about wildlife conservation and that involves the local communities. And she set up this place because she's passionate about it. She's passionate about the wildlife. She's passionate about showcasing it properly. The place I'm sitting at now, you know, sorry, at Toria, again, run by people who've been passionate about wildlife conservation for the last 40 years. So you know that the way that they've built their lodge is sustainable. They've used all natural materials. Yeah, so it's from the building of the lodge to the experiences that they offer to their engagement with the local communities. And it's looking at people that offer those kind of experiences, not just, you know, places that have got, you know, they build a big concrete structure and put in a swimming pool and minibars and fridges and air conditioning. And yes, we do tiger safaris. You know, no, it's talking about the wildlife, it's talking about the communities, it's finding those lodges and finding those people, which is what I'm doing here, you know. To really give you a true authentic experience. I mean, somebody I found a couple of days ago, they you know, again worked in wildlife and conservation for about 30 years, jacked in their jobs in Delhi and have a beautiful homestay here, and it's literally their home. And they work with the tribals and they farm from the land, and so you go and stay with them and you learn about the local food and that's what you eat, and you know, they interact with the local villagers, and it's just, that's not so much a wildlife experience as a just really lovely community experience here. So I think, you know, not just in wildlife, I think sustainability in general, you know, it's all about slowing things down. You know, you go to Jaipur, you know, if you do a standard tour and you go in, you arrive the evening before, say from Agra, you have your evening meal at the hotel, you get up in the morning, you're taken to the sites, you're taken shopping, which I despise, you're dropped back at the hotel, you leave the next morning. Who in the city benefits from that? Nobody. Yeah. You know, some workers in the hotel, maybe, you know, because they've got a job, you know. But if you actually go there and you do some walking tours with locals, and they'll take you to the chai shop and they'll take you to the markets, and you know, they take you around. And you know, I did a trip the other day from a hotel, and it was a case of we walked up a peak for sunrise, and there's a guy there selling chai, so we bought chai from him. You know, we then went down and we did a coracle ride across the river, so the boatman got some money for, you know, taking us across the river on the coracle ride. We then hired motorbikes, or they'd hired motorbikes, and we went sort of going through the back lanes and the villages on these motorbikes, so the farmer who owned the motorbikes benefited from that. You know, and it's how to integrate the local communities and the local people so that they see the benefits and they feel the benefits of tourism. You know, one thing I do as Indian experiences is I don't go with the big companies because they're all about the P for profit and just turning people around and getting them into shops. I find all these lovely local experience providers who, it might be a guy who does walking tours in Jaipur, but he set that up because he's passionate about showcasing his city in a real and authentic way. It might be somebody who's a specialist just in the northeast of India, because that's their home and that's what they're passionate about, and they want to work together with the local people. You know, and it's all about working together with the local people so that they benefit and offering, you know, sustainable experiences through them. You know, I might find somebody who's just a specialist in horse safaris or somebody who's just a specialist in whitewater rafting, but they know their region, they're passionate about what they do, they are the experts in what they do, you know, and they make sure that the local communities also benefit. Whereas if you're just booking through one of the big companies sitting in Delhi, they don't care about that. It's the booking hotel, the booking a guide, you're seeing some monuments and you're going to the next place, you know? So it's about finding these people who operate with a passion and who care about the people in their region and working together with those. So you work with those people, they make the introductions, because again, another thing that I truly believe in is just because you're in an offbeat destination doesn't make your travel sustainable. You know, a lot of offbeat travel can become very voyeuristic. You know, you go to a village, you stick your camera in some tribal's face and you leave. Well, again, who's benefiting from that? You might not be in a big city, but who's benefiting from that? So it's creating these authentic experiences that are mutually beneficial. You know, we did a Riker journey 4 or 5 years ago, who are the nomadic pastoralist camel herders of Rajasthan. And we spent 5 days with them, you know. And on the last day, you know, so the night before, the men went off with their camels and they go on a 6-month nomadic journey with their camels across the desert. And the women and the children are left behind. So we spent the day in the village with the women and children. Now, as travelers, we're really curious. We want to learn. But how often do we stop and give them the opportunity to ask us questions? So we sat in the village and these ladies wanted to ask us questions. They were really curious about us. You know, why were we 6 women traveling together? How come we could travel without men? Or how could we travel without our husbands? You know, why were we so fascinated about their way of life? So again, I think you need to think about, it's not just being voyeuristic, it's being immersive. It's really slowing things down. It's really thinking about working with people who are passionate about their particular region, you know, and not just people who, you know, are in it for the profit, really.
I think this really ties back to what you mentioned about just ticking things off your list, right? Like, why are you there in the first place? You still have a responsibility as a traveler, right? To leave a place how you found it, right? Not just because you're going to go take pictures and put them on your Instagram and create all this chaos. It's, you know, it's okay. And this is something that I'm still learning too, is really upholding that responsibility as a traveler and not just being there just to be there.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's really difficult because, you know, I also, you know, write, you know, I used to write for the Times of India and I write my blog, and yes, you do want to be present on social media. But I went to a place the other day and just got chatting to them, and I just got a sense from what he was saying that he didn't want social media, you know. And they just said, you know, we are 10 rooms, 70% of our business is referral, repeat, you know, word of mouth. We get people here who understand what we do, and we don't want people here who don't understand what we do. So, you know, and I just said, so would you rather me, you know, not put you on social media? And he said, yeah, if that's not a problem. I said, it's not a problem at all. And he said, you've been here and you understand this place. We're really happy for you to send guests because we know you get to know your guests and that they will understand this place. But we don't want to be out there with everyone sort of barging in. And I think as well, so, and it's really difficult if you're a travel writer, for example, because you want to share places with people, but you don't want them to get spoiled. So I visited somewhere 2 weeks ago that I stopped going to in 2001 because I sensed it was falling prey to over tourism. And this lodge that used to be at the edge of the forest is now literally in the center of town, you know, because that destination has become so popular.
That's so interesting. The idea of over tourism and some destinations aren't viable for extreme amount of tourists, and that it really all goes back to what you were saying. You have to think and be cognizant of why you're going somewhere and to get that. Is it just to get a photograph? Is it really to immerse yourself? Is it to help this community be economically sustainable? And the thinking about why you're going there first and foremost in all of your travels.
And what I love doing is finding places that can't get spoiled necessarily, and writing about those, because they can't fall prey to over tourism, because the land around is protected or whatever. And those are the places that you write about. But it is really difficult. It's a really fine balance between sharing and places getting spoiled, and thinking about the reasons that you're going, and it's not just for the photograph and the Instagram photo. There's got to be a reason behind it.
I guess I could ask you the same question, Philippa. Why India? Another loaded question. But after all these years, why India?
Gosh, she just draws you in. She's a nightmare. I mean, look, I'm drinking the best cup of chai I've ever had here. That's one reason. Really good chai. I'm just gonna bet.
I get that.
It's really good. And this is something, I'm on this trip now. This is my 25th anniversary trip. It's 25 years since I first came to India. And people just say to me, well, haven't you seen it all? And I'm like, oh my God, no, I haven't even begun. I've barely begun to scratch the surface. And I think with India, she is so vast and she is so diverse. And, for me, it's a case of when you're here, the more you discover, there is to discover. And she just draws you into that. On this trip, coming up through Kerala and northern Kerala into Malabar region, I got to Calicut and I just started talking to Dr. Sri Kumar, who owned the property there. And he started telling me about, traditionally, how teak used to come through, and how, through the rivers and down the rivers. And it was the main, place in India for teak trade. How the biryani first landed in India from the coastline from there. How you've got these like amazing mosques. How you have these temple performances. How you have weaving there. You have the beadi factories. And I was just like, okay, so I'm gonna have to come back here for a week to really explore it. And that's just one place. I then got to Kannauр, which is the scene of the crime. It's where my book was written. And I knew it wasn't going to be long enough. I had 2 nights there. I just wanted to check out 2 new properties. And then, I sat with Belinda, who's, the exec director of the Wildlife Protection Society of India. And I just got chatting to her. And then we start talking about, people we know in new places and what she's doing in different regions. And I'm just like, oh, I'm going to have to go there. I'm going to have to go there. And I'm going to have to go there. And she was telling me about new stuff in Kannauр and stuff that's going on in community projects. And I was like, okay, I could have had a week here. And it's just, I even now, 25 years in, I almost get overwhelmed by how much I still have to discover here. She's constantly peeling back more layers and unveiling more gems, and it's just truly never ending. And yeah, and I do think, I've got a friend traveling at the moment through sort of Cambodia and Laos and Vietnam, and I keep thinking I should try these places. I should go to more places. And then I'll get a phone call about, hey, we've just opened this lodge and it's in the brown bear country up in the Himalayas. And I'm like, I've always wanted to see brown bear in the Himalayas, so then I know I have to go there. And it's just, there's such diversity, and yeah, the more you discover here, the more you discover there is to discover. And it's just that just keeps bringing you back time and time again.
Ash and I were there for, what was it, like 2 weeks? I mean, I definitely need to go back at some point, but I was just like, I could be here for months and I would never feel like I've, seen enough of this place.
I mean, there is a saying, and I don't know who first came out with it. I think thousands of people have said it since, but it's just like a lifetime is not enough to discover India. And it really, really isn't.
So I came across one of your blog posts called The Mistress of India, and you discuss like some of the contrasting nature of India. And I'll read a little bit of a quote here. She is captivating and beguiling, fascinating, awe-inspiring, but most of all, enchanting. When she is working with you, she is an unstoppable force. When the time isn't right, she will leave you hovering indeterminately. She is the land of the living oxymoron. Her features are multifaceted. She's a cruel mistress, yet she will bewitch and tease and lure you with her endless charms. She will test and she will provoke, and you can't fight her or demand an outcome. One merely has to accept her, love her, and see where her journey takes you. I thought that was so beautiful and well put. whenever we first arrived to India, I remember telling Ash, like, there is so much going on here at the same time, and I can't even begin to like decipher. I don't know. I definitely felt that contrast. So when I read your blog post, I was like, oh my God, this is definitely something very that a lot of people see, right? And experience whenever they first go.
Yeah, and it is, and it's people say time and time again, it's another thing that people say time and time again, the for everything you can say about India, the opposite is also true. And she is absolutely fascinating, and she is incredibly frustrating, and and all these things. And I think a lot of that is also spoken about, from living and working here as well. Sort of living here, and you really get that sense. But yeah, it is, and I think I was writing something the other day, and it's because it is that, for everything you say about India, the opposite is also true. She does test, but she teases, and she gives, and she takes, and she bullies, and there is extreme wealth, and there's extreme poverty, and there's just all these contrasts in this extraordinary country. And I think, you can talk to one person and ask them a question, and they'll give you one answer, and you ask the same question to another person, and they give you another answer, and there can be totally different opinions, but still both very true. And I sort of think the other days is that no matter the contrast of India, no matter, I call her a living oxymoron, it's what she is. But I think there is just one statement that you can make about India that is true and that no one can deny, and is that India will make you feel. And whether that is feelings of joy or feelings of sadness or whatever, it doesn't matter. She will make you feel. Most people come to India and people say it's a love it or hate it kind of place. Most people end up loving it. Some people, hate it. But again, she's made you feel.
Yeah.
She makes you think. What you see every day, the joy, the color, the poverty, the wealth, it doesn't matter what it is. The extraordinary jungles or the chaotic cities. At every moment, she wrests an emotion out of you.
And that's definitely not something you would find coming to India. You're not going to be indifferent. You will have, it will leave a lasting impression.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it is the kind of thing. So again, when I was back in London selling, holidays there, and people would say to me, "Oh, well, we do a big holiday every year or every other year. We never go to the same country twice, apart from India." And again, once she's drawn you in, and once you realise the diversity, and there's different places to discover for different reasons, you end up coming back time and time again. As you say, you guys went for 2 weeks. You've scratched the
Nothing.
surface of a couple of places, and then it just spirals out from there. I was in a lodge a couple of nights ago, met a couple from Calcutta, and I go to Calcutta, and she's this crazy, crazy city. And I can write about most places in India, and I've never been able to write about Calcutta. And I think, and it's because it's kind of like India in microcosm. At every turn, there's something different. There's something new. There's just a new curiosity or something, and I go out and I go, right, I'm going to capture Calcutta. I'm going to get it. And then I go, then what do you mean there's a Chinatown? How come there's a Chinatown? Well, how come the Kathi roll was invented here? And look at the Hooghly Bridge. What's that? What are these people doing down on the river? And what do you mean the Marble Palace has got the? And you just, go around. So in the end, someone said, well, why don't you write an article about the fact that you can't write about Calcutta? Because it's too much and too overwhelming, and that's what I did in the end. And I think, that just kind of sums up India. It's just so multifaceted.
As an author and a travel expert in India, what is your favorite part about your job, or what you get to do day in and day out?
Look at where I'm sitting. Look at where I'm sitting in this fantastic place. I think one of the best things that ever happened to me was that very first company who had this very strict policy of, if you haven't seen it, you can't sell it. So it's a case of, you go, you learn, you visit firsthand, and you get that knowledge. And then as soon as you start doing that, you see extraordinary places, and you meet amazing people, and you have these incredible discussions. And it's just, the driver that I had for the first 2 weeks of this trip in South India was just like, I've never met anybody as curious as you. because someone mentions something and I want to go do it, you know, you have a discussion and say, well, can I go see that? And I think that's it. It's you travel, you meet amazing people, you meet people who are passionate, you know, about what they do. I mean, the lodge I'm in now, you know, Sarat Tour at Pana is run by these just amazing wildlife guys. And you just sit and you have conversations with them and you just learn so much and discover so much. So, you know, and every day is different, you know. And then yes, you know, you have to go back to the office and sit there and do the day job as well. But then you get to talk about what you've discovered and you get to know people. And that's what I say, the whole thing about, you know, the way that I do my job is you get to know your customers as well and you get to know about them. So it's just a whole curious journey. Perhaps I'm just nosy. Perhaps that's what it boils down to.
No, and I think the other part of it is that you're planning these trips with intention. And so, you know, also from a fulfilling perspective, that you're providing economic stability and sustainability in these communities, and that you're really making a difference with the itineraries and tours that you're providing. So I think there's the whole other realm as well that you could find it very fulfilling.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for a long time, and yeah, and I still do it, you know, sort of help other companies devise their products and help other companies and promote all these smaller experience providers. And I think I never think of it like that. And it's interesting what you just said, because when I was in Hampi the other day, we have these guys in Hampi who do these amazing local tours, you know, that involve a lot of local people. And he just said, but you know, in what you do, in doing the consultancy part of what I do and working with travel companies and sharing my knowledge with them, he said, but you give employment and opportunities to so many other people. And that never even occurred to me. You know, it's you know, I do it because I love it and I share it and I want these people to get out there and do well. But yeah, that side of it had never really occurred to me. But I suppose that's fundamentally a major part of what I do.
Philippa, speaking of some fun things, we're asking everyone who comes on the show some fun travel rapid fire questions. So you ready?
Oh,
What is one thing you don't travel without?
Yorkshire tea bags.
Always have tea?
Yorkshire tea.
Yorkshire tea.
tea.
Has to be Yorkshire tea bags. Never go anywhere without them. I mean, in India, it's like bringing coals to Newcastle when we have, you know, all our tea plantations here and make amazing tea. But no, I have to travel with my Yorkshire tea bags.
Right. I was about to say you've just been given the best chai of your life, but you
Yeah. Yeah, still travel with my Yorkshire tea bags.
What is a life-changing meal that you've had while traveling?
I'm going to go dosa, an Indian dosa, because on my very first trip, it was the very first breakfast I had on that very first day. And I'm still here 25 years later. So let's blame it on the dosa.
Yeah, it must have been good. Where did you have it?
That would have been my very first destination in India was Chennai. So I came into Chennai and yeah, I was staying in the Taj Connemara Hotel. And yeah, it was dosa for breakfast.
What is your next place on your travel bucket list?
Out of India or in India?
Either.
Either. My next place on my bucket list here is the next destination I'm literally going to, which is another incredible national park. And it's where a friend of mine has just started doing horse safaris. And I've always wanted to do horse safaris around a tiger reserve. So that in India, it's actually where I'm going next. And it's been on my list for quite some time. Outside of India, Madagascar.
Who is your travel inspiration?
My travel inspiration. I don't know about somebody who's a travel who inspires me in terms of travel. I've never really thought about it, but there are two books. One is the first book I ever bought on India, and literally 25 years ago when you know I was told that I would be selling holidays to India. You know, there was no Google in those days. You know, you couldn't jump on Amazon or anything like that, which I still don't do. But I went down to the local bookshop and they had one book on India in that bookshop. And it was called An Indian Summer by James Cameron. And he was a guy who'd been worked for the BBC in India and then had gone back having married an Indian lady. And it's him traveling around India in the early 1970s. And he's just so observant, eloquent, and yet totally succinct, which is something I could never be. He can just sum up in one sentence what would take me a paragraph to say. And it's one book that I've never lost. It doesn't matter how many house changes or whatever, it just always stays with me. And I absolutely love that book. And that's just inspires me about India, and it inspires me about writing. It inspires me about traveling the country and just seeing things the way that he did. And the other one is, and again, just another book, but again, just the kind of travel that I would love to be able to do. And I met Tara the elephant 2 nights ago. This guy called Mark Shand, who sadly died in 2014 in a very sort of freak accident. But he'd come to India and had decided he wanted to travel across India on an elephant. So he bought an elephant and traveled across India on that elephant. And the book is called Travels with My Elephant by Mark Shand. And you get to the end of the journey and what happens to the elephant, and two people that he knew wanted to buy her for their safari lodge, and she's still there. So I went and met her 2 days ago, Tara the elephant. But just that whole his way of travel is, I want to go to India and I want to buy an elephant and travel across India on an elephant. I mean, brilliant. I wish I'd thought of it.
That's incredible.
I wish I'd thought of it first. Yeah.
Wow.
So, and again, controversial now. I mean, there's much more. I work together with Wildlife SOS, which is an NGO. I don't work together with my, help promote them in any way I can, which is an NGO in Agra that protects elephants, because a lot of domesticated elephants are very badly treated, and I don't agree in riding elephants and things like that. But to go and meet Tara, who is a domesticated elephant, you can't rewild these elephants, and just to see her still, living in a forest and being able to, being a domesticated elephant that has her own 25-acre private forest, to go and graze in every day. But just that kind of travel, I just think it was just extraordinary.
What is your best quality that travel brings out of you, and what maybe is one of your worst qualities that comes out while traveling?
Best is just curiosity, just if is that a quality, I don't know, but just that desire to be curious and want to go and want to meet people and just chat with them and just share experiences with people, whether it's just for a moment or in Calicut the other day, this Taya performance that goes on all night, and these little kids were running around and they were super excited to see a foreigner there, because it's just a little local thing. It's not done for tourists, and then I just got chatting to them and they were so excited, and then their mums came over and met me, and then they all invited me to join them for the night, and then these kids were actually performing at like 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and they said, will you stay for our performance? And just just that ability to just meet people and share and just be a part of their lives, and you're helping create moments for them as much as they're creating moments for you. And I think it's that lovely give and take. My worst quality, probably that I try and do too much and I take on too much, and then I get tired and grumpy and growly.
That's fair.
Perhaps that somebody wanted me to go and visit this other hotel the other day, and it was like 30 kilometers out of my way, and I was just like, I'm too grumpy, I'm too growly, I've done too much, I'm not doing it. So yeah, perhaps that.
Who is the coolest person that you've met while you were traveling? Out of all the people you've met, because I'm sure you've met a ton of people.
Can I just say, India has 1.4 billion people in it.
Yeah.
Right? you got that bit right. I just think that's really, really, really hard. I mean, what I'm going to sort of kind of skirt around it and go with, the people that I find that I choose to work with are Indian experiences, and it's because they operate with such a passion for what they do. It's the niche specialists, it's the guys, and I know I've said this sort of, earlier, but when you find somebody who's passionate about a particular thing or knowledgeable about a particular thing, and that's what they do, and that's so inspiring. So whether it's, where I am now, the guys in this lodge who just, are passionate about wildlife and so knowledgeable about wildlife, whether it's, my fantastic guide Vineet in Jaipur, who just left his job because he wanted to showcase his city properly. And everybody says he's the highlight of their trip, and he's so gentle and unassuming, but just passionate about his city. And I think that for me is my inspiration, is going out and finding people in their particular niches, whether it's a region or a particular topic, and just being inspired by their passion for what they do.
That's beautiful. So well said. I'm going to give you one more. What is one of your biggest lessons learned through traveling?
To let go, acceptance. You just have to accept. Go with it, go with the experience, go with what you're shown. Don't try and force it. Just go with it.
That's where the beautiful things come, the lifelong adventure in India.
Yeah. Another 25 years ahead of me.
Cheers to that. Well,
My
Philippa,
word.
thank you so much for your time. I know this is going to be a two-part episode. Absolutely. There's so many gems of knowledge and things to unpack here. So I really appreciate you taking the time. I know I'm taking you away from your incredible journey over there.
Not at all. Not at all. I'll sit here and have my chai and chat.